This is the Vivo X300 Pro. And on paper, yeah, it looks like just another flagship. But after a few weeks of real-world use, I found things no one's talking about. A zoom lens that needs taming, camera kit that turns your phone into a full-blown telephoto rig, and battery life that made me stop carrying a charger. Oh, and the software? Let's just say it's not quite what I expected. If you're thinking of buying it, you need to see this first. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, Maz here from MazTechCentral. Welcome back. Today we're deep diving into the Vivo X300 Pro, and I've got the full photographer's kit here as well. This isn't just a spec rundown or rehash what others are saying. This is my full honest experience. I've taken this phone out on walks, shot portraits, tested battery under heavy use, and yes, found a few quirks that need some tuning. I'm going to take you step by step from the unboxing to my final thoughts. All right, let's kick things off with unboxing. Vivo keeps it clean and minimal, but with a few nice touches. You get the phone front and center, of course. Underneath that, you'll find the color matched case, which seems really good quality. And to be fair, I've been using a USB-C cable, SIM ejector, and the 90-watt fast charger. Again, a proper fast charger in the box. Thank you, Vivo. Phone comes with a screen protector pre-applied. It was good enough until I managed to snag an anti-reflection glass screen protector I found online. But at least with it included, it's one less thing to worry about. Straight out the box, the build and finish actually feel quite premium. It's subtle, classy, and just a nice first impression. I do like this mist blue variant here. It's got a matte finish, meaning less fingerprinty, if that's even a word. The color is quite subtle, like a pastel even. All the colors this year, Dune Brown, Phantom Black, Cloud White, and this mist blue, exude a quiet sophistication rather than flashy gradients. It's definitely a different take on the vibrant red color that the X200 Ultra came in. But I like the direction it's going in. First things first, in-hand feel, which is always really important. The X300 Pro carries over the design language from the X200 Ultra, and to be honest, I expected it to feel heavy or top heavy, especially with that big camera circle on the back. But honestly, it feels surprisingly light, even at 226 grams. It's well balanced, not slippery, build is rock solid, no creaks or flex, and it's only 7.9 millimeters thick, which is seriously impressive given the battery it houses. We'll get onto the battery later on. The matte finish is clean, and as I mentioned, the back doesn't pick up fingerprints, but neither do the sides because it comes in a matte aluminium finish. Speaking of the sides are flat, making it easy to hold. I do recommend, however, throwing on the included case though. It gives it a bit of extra grip, but also protects your investment. You never know when the phone might accidentally fall and ruin the aesthetic. Now let's talk about the camera module, because it dominates the design. Vivo went with a large, central circular camera bump on the back. It's huge and impossible to miss. 3 lenses are arranged within this round island with the Zeiss logo tucked there too. It's a gorgeous design, if you ask me, very pro camera style. However, it does protrude significantly, and you will feel it. In fact, when I hold the phone to use or to take photos, my index finger rests quite comfortably on the edge of the camera bump. Oh, but also because the camera bump is centered, it doesn't wobble as much on the table as other phones where the camera is offset. And while Vivo calls the screen flat, there is a very slight curve at the edge. At first, it did feel a bit weird to me, but once I slapped on the screen protector, the curve just disappeared. It feels completely flat now, and the gestures feel natural. The volume and power button are on the right side and feel clicky and responsive. There's a shortcut button on the left, which is customizable. And because double-clicking the power button, even on the global version, brings up Vivo's access cards, wallet, app thingy, which I can only turn off and not reprogram, I'm glad at the very least, I can customize the shortcut button to quickly launch the camera with a double press. But I wish it was placed slightly lower, just to make it more reachable. There's also an IR blaster embedded in the camera island, which is useful for when the TV remote is more than an arm's reach away and you can't quite bring yourself to move that extra inch to grab it. A USB-C port next to a speaker grill with the added bonus of a SIM card slot, which houses dual SIMs. I do have to highlight that this phone is IP69 rated on top of the IP68, which means as well as water and dust resistance up to 1.5 meters, it can also handle high pressure jets like a dishwasher if you ever wanted to give it a good clean. But seriously, for a phone that is camera focused, you want it to be protected in harsher conditions. Speaking of protection, the front is covered with what Vivo calls a Diamond Armour glass, which has 110% drop resistance compared to conventional glass. It's a neat touch. I'm definitely not going to drop test it, but it's reassuring. Let's talk screen. 6.78 inch AMOLED display. This thing is stunning. Super bright, crisp, and just a joy to use. I've had no issues in direct sunlight, and with 4,500 nits peak brightness, I definitely shouldn't. When watching HDR videos, highlights really shine, literally. It's one of the brightest displays on any phone right now, and it shows. On the flip side, it can also dim to around 1 nit for nighttime, which is great for reading in bed without burning your retinas. The LTPO tech means it scales refresh rate depending on what you're doing from 1 Hz to 120 Hz. Everything feels buttery smooth, from scrolling socials to swiping between apps. The resolution is a crisp 1260 by 2800. At this size gives it a pixel density of 452. Everything is sharp. I had to literally squint to see any pixels. Text and icons are smooth. It's not quite 1440p, but honestly, you wouldn't know. It strikes a good balance between sharpness and battery efficiency. It has the usual PWM dimming to reduce flicker at low brightness and blue light filters for those who are sensitive. And it didn't give me eye strain when I was reading at night, something I probably shouldn't be doing anyway, but the tech is there to help in case you do. This is probably one of the best displays I've used, and the flat design just makes it better when consuming content because it means the content doesn't leak over the sides. You can also change it from the default natural color mode to professional or bright, aka vivid. Also, shout out to the in-display fingerprint scanner. It's ultrasonic, it's faster than most of the phones I've used, which aren't slow anyway, but this just edges it slightly. And it also works with even slightly wet fingers, which is a bonus. Definitely no complaints here. All right, the camera. Vivo went all out here. You've got a main 50 megapixel sensor co-engineered with Zeiss with a gimbal grade optical image stabilization. In use, the main camera is excellent. During the day, it captures beautifully detailed shots with that Zeiss natural color tuning. Colors are realistic, maybe even a tad subdued compared to Samsung or Apple's rendition, but I don't mind that. Dynamic range is broad. Highlights are really blown out thanks to smart HDR, and shadows retain detail. In low light, the X300 impresses too. The combo of a large sensor, gimbal OIS, and Vivo's night mode algorithms produce bright, clean images. I took some night street photos and the phone managed to keep the noise very low, with only occasional softness on moving subjects. It's not magic, extreme dark scenes will still need a few seconds of night mode, but it's on par with the best flagships, I think. The ultra-wide camera holds its own in daylight. 50 megapixels sounds great, though by default, it probably bins it down to 12.5 megapixels. My ultra-wide shots of buildings and group photos came out sharp in the center with a bit of softness at the extreme edges. Vivo's color consistency across lenses is commendable. I didn't see a big shift in white balance when switching from main to ultra-wide. And thanks to the autofocus, this camera doubles as a super macro camera. And it's fun. I got up close to flowers, insects, even the texture on a piece of fabric. And the phone automatically switches to macro mode using the ultra-wide lens. The close-ups were detailed and vibrant, focusing as close as just a few centimeters away. In low light, the ultra-wide is probably the weakest of the trio because of the smaller sensor. You get more noise and need night mode often. It's fine for nighttime cityscapes if you manage to hold it steady with the night mode, but it won't be as clean as the main camera. Now, the telephoto. Oh boy, Vivo has taken an unconventional approach by using a very high resolution 200 megapixel sensor here. In good light, this allows for some mind-blowing detail capture. The native optical is 3.5 times, approximately 85 millimeters equivalent, which is great for portraits or closer compositions. Portraits at 3.5 times actually look fantastic. For even more reach, Vivo leverages that 200 megapixel digital zoom. It offers up to 20 times without the additional lens, which they call ultra zoom, for things like bird watching, as AI helps to keep movement in focus. I did notice some quirks with the camera software that you should be aware of. Shutter speed is super fast, no issues there at all. Tap it and it captures instantly. But, and this is a big but, processing time is slow. You take the shot and then it just sits for a second or two processing. That's where the delay kicks in. It's not a deal breaker, but I hope they optimize that in a future update. And as I mentioned, the zoom is pretty insane. You can go up to about 10 times zoom with surprisingly good quality, but here is where the problem lies. At 10 times, I've noticed something weird. Faces start to look a bit waxy, like there's a smoothing filter applied. Even when I have all the beautification settings turned off, there's still a bit of that soft skin effect. Not always, but it's there. That said, the detail you can pull from this camera is incredible. It's fast to focus, low light shots are solid, and the dynamic range has been great. Colors are a bit more neutral compared to some other brands, which isn't a bad thing, just depends on your preference. Now, let's talk about the photography kit. Vivo's optional or bundle photography kit turns the X Pro 100 from a phone into something that looks like a mirrorless camera. And it's honestly so much fun, although it's a bit niche. The 2.35x telephoto lens is a detachable lens co-developed with Zeiss that mounts over the X300 Pro's telephoto camera. It provides a 2.35 optical magnification on top of the built-in 3.5x. In other words, when this lens is attached, the phone's telecamera jumps from approximately 85mm equivalent to about 200mm equivalent focal length optically. That's like going from a standard tele-lens to a super telephoto on a DSLR. The build of the lens is serious. It's made of metal and glass with Zeiss coating. It's not some cheap clip-on, it's a real piece of optics. It screws onto a mount on the special phone case that comes in the kit. Case has a bayonet-style metal mount over the camera module. You line up the lens, give it a twist, and it locks securely in place. This thing is a real deal. You get a telephoto extender lens, a grip with a shutter button, zoom toggle, and even a focus wheel. I've taken it out a few times and it generally feels like using a compact camera. It does add bulk for sure, but if you're into photography, it's definitely worth it. Although I must point out you will attract some stares if you do this in public. The kit is fairly heavy, shifting the phone's balance. I found I needed to hold the phone very steady. It probably would be better on a tripod, but that's another thing to carry, so I didn't bother. The camera app smartly detects the lens when it's attached. A little icon pops up in the UI and tapping it switches the camera to a special mode optimized for detachment. Pretty seamless. The grip has also a built-in battery around 2300 mAh, which is a bonus. Connects to the phone with USB-C, which minimizes delays. The grip has a textured, slightly rubberized finish and a sculpted shape that fits your right hand fingers. Your index finger naturally rests on this two-stage shutter button. And there's also a zoom rocker that lets you zoom in and out smoothly with your index finger, just like operating a point and shoot camera. Additionally, there's a wheel dial on the front of the grip that can act as a focus ring or control dial in the camera app. It's definitely niche, but it's added a lot of fun to my shooting experience. Vivo's mounting system means you can leave the adapter ring on the phone all the time since it doesn't block the other cameras. That means you could keep the special case on and just pop the lens on and off quickly as needed without removing or covering cameras. The Vivo X300 Pro without any accessories is already one of the most capable camera phones out there, with a versatile triple lens setup that produces fantastic images. The addition of the Zeiss lens and the grip pushes it into a category of its own. It's basically a modular camera phone hybrid. This system is probably not for everyone. Casual users probably won't want to carry a lens around, but for other enthusiasts, it adds another dimension to phone photography. I've captured shots with this phone that I simply would have missed or gotten far inferior quality with any other smartphone. It's not perfect, the software processing could use some refining, and the whole rig is a bit unwieldy, but it truly delivers on Vivo's promise of a professional camera experience in your pocket, as long as your pockets are big enough. After all that camera talk, you might be wondering, Does the X300 Pro have the stamina to back up those marathon shooting sessions? Absolutely yes. Battery life has been nothing short of stellar in my experience. Now, a quick note, the unit I'm using has a battery capacity of 6,510 milliamp hours. I know the EU version has a lesser 5,440 milliamp hours due to transportation regulations. This phone is a battery champ, and if you can, I would import the larger 6,510 milliamp hours variant, because with the added 2,300 milliamp hours built into the grip, you're getting serious endurance for long shooting days. I consistently finish the day with around 30 to 40% left, even with medium to heavy use. That includes social media, maps, photos, videos, and the odd gaming session. It just sips battery, and standby time is fantastic. I've left it overnight and it's only dropped a few percent. It charges super quick too. 90 watts wired, 40 watts wireless. I haven't had a single day where I was worried about running out. This is easily one of the best battery performers I've used in ages. I could actually see some lighter users getting a good 2 days out of this battery. I also want to mention that battery health is something that Vivo has actually focused on this generation. They claim the new semi-solid state Blue Volt battery will retain health longer. Obviously, I can't test the longevity in a short review period, but it's nice knowing the battery is designed to last many cycles without significant capacity drop, which is something we were quite worried about with silicon carbon batteries. Now onto the software and its quirks. The X300 Pro runs OriginOS, and this is the first time we're getting it globally. Overall, it's smooth and clean. Animations feel slick and the UI is quite polished. Definitely a step up from FunTouch. But I've hit a few small issues. First up, widget resizing. Some widgets, like the weather one, are just stuck. I wish I could resize them to fit the width of the screen, but nope. Hopefully Vivo addresses that soon. Also, swiping away notifications. I don't know about you, but when I hold my phone with the right hand, which I normally do, I like to swipe away to the left. But swiping left doesn't really dismiss it unless you give it a hard swipe. It brings up some options instead. I'd prefer if both directions dismissed them, like on other phone brands. Not a huge issue, but just a small usability thing I've noticed. Out of the box, I found that it's quite a bit aggressive in killing background apps. I've had to disable battery optimizations for a couple of apps to keep them persistent, like for Bluetooth enabled devices like for my watch and smart ring, but also for things like WhatsApp because I was getting some delayed notifications. On the flip side, the transition from FunTouch to OriginOS does mean that there's some tuning still to be done. I had a few bugs right out of the box, but since I've had the phone, Vivo has already pushed 2 updates and most of it's been resolved. In terms of stability and performance, I give OriginOS 6 a big thumbs up. In the few weeks that I've used this phone, I didn't experience any app crashes and the phone feels buttery smooth. Oh, and if you're worried that MediaTek's flagship processor can't hang with Snapdragon's best, trust me, it can. Vivo's optimizations between the processor and the software means everything from browsing to gaming was actually quite smooth. This software flies on this hardware. So, who is this phone for? If you love mobile photography, want top-tier battery life, and you're okay with a few minor quirks, the Vivo X300 Pro is honestly brilliant. The camera setup is versatile and fun, especially with the photography kit. The screen is stunning. The battery just goes and goes, and the performance for me has been solid. It's not perfect. That post-shot processing delay, the waxy zoom effect, and the widget notification quirks could use some refinement, but none of these ruin the experience for me. And here's the thing, what makes this phone different is that it's not just playing catch up. It's doing things I've never had on any other phone. The camera kit is wild. The battery endurance is the best I've seen in a long time, and the software, while not perfect, is refreshing. I've genuinely enjoyed using this phone. It feels like Vivo took a bold step here and it's paid off. It's doing it with confidence and I respect that. So that's been my time with the Vivo X300 Pro. If you're considering picking one up or want help choosing between versions, hit me up in the comments. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more honest, real-world tech reviews, always keeping it accessible for everyone. I'm Maz, this is MazTechCentral. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care of yourself. Maz out.